Welcome to Little John's Yarns. Today we're going to learn how to create this beautifully stitched crochet circle bag. What I love about this pattern is super quick and easy, and the pattern has depth to it. It's not just the shallow purse, as you can see on two panels on each side, and we have this band that goes around, so you're able to fit more things into the bag. Alright, so the materials for this pattern, I am using a 4mm crochet hook and Brava worsted weight yarn. And if you would like to follow along to the free written pattern, that is going to be linked down in the description box below. Alright guys, let's get directly into this tutorial. We're going to start with a magic circle. If you can't make a magic circle, just chain 4 and slip stitch into the first chain to form a ring. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Your chain 3 is going to count as a double crochet throughout this entire pattern. Now we're going to place 11 double crochets into the ring. Pause your video here and continue placing double crochets into the ring. We've made it to the end of round number 1, and you should have a total of 12 stitches, including the first chain 3, which counts as a stitch. Now we're going to slip stitch the joint into the top of your chain 3 stitch and fasten off your work. Make sure you tighten that center tail. To begin round number 2, we're going to attach our yarn to the very same place. And chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to place 3 double crochets back into the same stitch. You notice the same stitch because when you pull on it, it kind of tints out a little bit. 1, and make sure you're working over your ends. 2, and 3. Okay, and we're going to skip the next stitch and begin our pattern repeat. Our pattern repeat is going to be 4 double crochets into the next stitch, followed by skipping the next stitch. Alright, I'll show you. So, we're going to skip this next stitch and 4 double crochets into the next. One, 2, 3, and 4. And once again, skip the next stitch and 4 double crochets into the next. Pause your video here and I'll meet you at the completion of this round. We've made it to the end of round number 2, and you should have a total of 6 clusters. Now we're going to slip stitch the joint into the top of the chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch the joint. And you can fasten off your work. For the remainder of this pattern, we're going to be working into the spaces. The spaces is anything in front of your post stitch. So here's a double crochet, that's the post, and the space is right here. Typically, when you're crocheting, you work into the V's in through the stitch, but we're going to be working around it into these spaces. So I'm going to call this a space. The next over, this right here, is a space. A space. We're working around your stitches through the space. Alright, so to begin round number 3, we're going to attach the yarn to any space between 2 clusters. So here's a cluster and here's a cluster. So I'm going to attach my yarn between any space. Oops. To begin, we're going to start with a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to double crochet back into the same space. And we're going to skip the next space, which is right here. Remember, we're not working into the stitches, we're working around to the space. And place 2 double crochets into the next one. So skip this one and 2 double crochets into this one next to my left thumb. So that's 1 and 2. That is going to be our pattern repeat all the way around. So once again, skip a space and 2 double crochets into the next. Pause your video here. Continue with 2 double crochets and skipping a space all the way around, and I'll meet you at the other side. We've made it to the end of round number 3, and you should have a total of 12 clusters. Now we're just going to slip stitch the join to top of your chain 3. Now fasten off your work. To start round number 4, you're going to attach your yarn to any one of your spaces between 2 clusters. So here's a cluster and here's a cluster. Let's attach our yarn between that space. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to place 3 more double crochets into the same space. 1, 2, and 3. Now begins our pattern repeat. We're going to place 4 double crochets between each cluster. So we're going to place 4 double crochets between these 2 clusters here. So in this space here, I'll work it with you. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so pause your video here. Continue with this pattern repeat of placing 4 double crochets between each cluster space all the way around. So remember, here's a space, there's a space, and here's a space. Each cluster space all the way around. Pause your video here and I'll meet you at the other side. We've made it to the end of round number 4, and you should have a total of 12 clusters. Now we're just going to slip stitch the join into the top of the chain 3. And you can fasten off your work. To start round number 5, we're going to attach our yarn to any space between 2 clusters. Cluster, cluster, and there's a space. That's where we're going to attach our yarn. We're going to begin by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to place another double crochet into the same space. And we're going to skip a space, and now begins our pattern repeat. We're going to double crochet. After we skip a space, we're going to place 2 double crochets into the next one. 1 and 2 and skip a space. 2 double crochets into this next one. Alright, pause your video here. Continue with that pattern repeat. 2 double crochet into the next space, followed by skipping. Excuse me, I'll say it again. 2 double crochets into the next space, then skip a space. 2 double crochets into the next space, and then skip a space. Pause your video here, and I'll meet you at the other side. We've made it to the end of round number 5, and you should have a total of 24 clusters. And now we're going to slip stitch the join into the top of the chain 3. And you can fasten off your work. Once again, you can attach your yarn to any one of the spaces between 2 clusters. So here's a cluster, and here's the space I'm going to attach the yarn to. As usual, we're going to begin by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to double crochet back into the same space. Now begins our pattern repeat. We're going to place 2 double crochets between each cluster. So we're going to place a double crochet in this next space right here between 2 clusters. 1, 2. Once again, place 2 double crochets between clusters. Here's 2 clusters. We'll place it right here. 1 and 2. Pause your video here and continue with this pattern repeat of placing 2 double crochets between clusters. We've just completed round number 6, and you should have a total of 24 clusters. And we're just going to slip stitch to join into the top of the chain 3. And you can fasten off your row. So now for the next 4 rows, we are going to do a couple pattern row repeats. So for row 7, 8, 9, and 10, for row 7, you repeat round number 6. For 8, you repeat round number 4. For 9, repeat round number 5. And for 10, repeat round number 6. I'm going to leave a timestamp where all these rounds begin. So pause your video here and I'll meet you at the completion of your next 4 rounds. We've completed that last round, and all you have to do is fasten off your work. Now go ahead and make a second one just like this, and then we'll move on to the strap. Now we're going to be working on the purse straps, and it's very important not to get this original chain twisted, but I'm going to give you a hack on how to do that. So we're going to start with a slip knot. If you are 5'2" and under, I want you to chain 220. If you're between 5'2" and 5'8", you're going to chain 236. And if you're over 5'8", you can chain 256. All right, so let me show you the hack on not twisting your original chain. So I'm going to start by chaining about 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Make sure your chain is not twisted. Remove your hook and insert it into that very first stitch and place the working loop back on your hook. And continue to chain as normal. This keeps your chain from being not twisted. All right, pause your video here and continue with those designated amount of chains. We finished chaining, and this is what it looks like. You still have 2 loops on your hook. 2 slip stitch to join, you're just going to yarn over and pull through both those loops on the hook. But so you know exactly where that last chain is, which will be your first stitch, right here, place your thumbnail on it so you don't lose exactly where it is. So yarn over and pull through both those 2 loops. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Remember, the chain 3 counts as a double crochet. Now let's double crochet into the very first stitch. You know it's the first stitch because you kept track. You put your nail on it. It's right here. It kind of almost looks like it's the second stitch, but it's right next to it. So place a double crochet into that very first stitch. All right, now begins our pattern repeat. We're going to skip 1 chain, 2 double crochets in the next. I'll work it with you. We skip 1 and 2 double crochets into the next chain and skip a chain and 2 double crochets into the next chain. That is going to be our pattern repeat all the way around. So pause your video here, continue, 2 double crochets, skipping a stitch, and 2 double crochets again. So pause your video here and I'll meet you at the completion of this round. We've made it to the very end of the round, and you might notice I'm using a sample piece because I've already crocheted up the strap, but the stitches are all the same. If you make it to the very end of your strap and it feels like you're missing a stitch, don't worry about it. Just squeeze in an extra or take out 1. These mistakes in this on the strap are very easy to hide, so don't even worry about it. So at the end of this round, we're just going to slip stitch to join into the top of your chain 3. And you can fasten off your work. We are going to attach our next color to any one of the spaces between your clusters. So I'll attach the yarn right about here. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Double crochet back into the same space. The pattern repeat is going to be 2 double crochets into each one of your cluster spaces. So I'll show you the first one. So here's our next cluster space. I'm going to place 2 double crochets. 1, 2. Pause your video here. Continue placing 2 double crochets in each cluster space. We're going to do that for 2 rounds. So for this round, slip stitch to join, and we're going to do it for another round and slip stitch to join. So pause your video here and I'll meet you at the completion of those 2 rounds. We're going to take our first panel and we're going to place stitch markers in them. The first stitch marker we're going to place between any one of your 2 clusters. Then I want you to count 13 over and place another stitch marker. Alright, once you have that in place, spin it around upside down. So there you go, so your stitch markers are at the bottom. And now we're going to wrap our strap around. But make sure the right side is facing out. Here's the wrong side. Okay, the right side is going to be facing out. Now take your first stitch marker, open it up, and attach it to any one of your cluster spaces. Is this the right side? Oop, I'm on the wrong side. You got to double check. There it is. The right side should be facing out. And clip. Turn your work. What we're going to be doing now, we're going to be working through the front cluster space and the back cluster space at the same time to crochet these edges around. So let me get my new yarn. I'm going to go in through this first space and directly behind it onto the strap and through its matching space. And add your yarn. Chain 1. Alright, this is going to be a pattern repeat all the way around. We're going to place 2 single crochets into each cluster space. So 2 single crochets into this first one. 1, 2, go into the next cluster space. So in through the front of the purse and go through the back strap space and place 2 single crochets. That's 1, 2. Pause your video here, continue placing 2 single crochets in each cluster space with the purse and the strap all the way around until you make it to your very next stitch marker. So pause your video here and I'll meet you at the other side. We've made it to the next stitch marker and I placed 2 single crochets into there. Now we're just going to do the same stitch pattern onto the straps. So we're no longer working onto the purse because this is going to be our opening. So now, once again, we're going to place 2 single crochets into the next cluster space. I'll show you one more time. 2 single crochets into the next cluster space. So pause your video here, continue with this pattern all the way until you make it to the other end of your strap. We've made it to the very end of the strap and I put those last 2 single crochets in, and now we're just going to slip stitch to join into that very first single crochet. And you can fasten off your work. Now with the opposite side, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to section off the 13 stitches, 13 clusters in between. That's going to be the opening for your purse. Line that up over here and sew it on or crochet it on just like you did the other side. I'll leave a timestamp on exactly where that starts. So pause your video here and continue putting on the second panel. This is what your purse looks like all done. Now you can either add a zipper for your opening or, like myself, add a little buttonhole. All I did was do a couple chains on the opposite side and add a button to the front hand side. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please make sure you check out my other crochet bag tutorials, and I'll see you all on the very next video. Bye guys!